What's going on? This is Wild Fed Family, and on today's video I'm going to show you how I went from this greenhouse into this greenhouse. So follow along, and I'm going to show you how I turned all of it into an automated food growing machine. But first, I'm just going to address why I'm making the swap. Now, I've absolutely enjoyed this greenhouse, and I've had it for roughly 3 years, and it has done very well. But here are the things that I do not like about it. One is the cover. Now, this is the second cover that I've been through, and you can see in between all of these PVC strands, the actual plastic has deteriorated, and it really does not last long, unfortunately. These covers are just cheap Chinese junk, and it runs me about $100 to $150 to replace them, and I'm just not a real big fan of that. The next thing is I don't have total control over the environment of the inside here. Now, I could control it some. Here you see two different thermometers, and I had them hooked up to these Humminbird controllers, and what that would do was it would kick on a fan right here that would blow cold air in when it got too hot. And then I also had attached to the second controller a heater, so during the winter time it'd get too cold, vice versa, so it could heat up at night, cool down in here, but it wasn't super efficient. And there was a lot of room for leaks and air to get in here, and unfortunately I had quite a few things die that I wish I hadn't. Stuff like guava and mangoes and avocados and things like that that I was starting in here just could not handle that fluctuation. So I want better control over this next greenhouse. And lastly, what I had under control was the water as well. So I had 4 different zones, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was all timed, so every morning right at sunrise, zone 1 would hit, which was going to be these misters down here. Then 10 minutes later, it'd water on zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. But as this top deteriorated, what happened was I would get just, sun, basically sun deterioration, just like the top did on these, and they would not function the way that they were intended to. So with this new and improved greenhouse that I'm making, I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen, and I'm probably going to do something other than misters. I'm going to change it up a little bit. Fortunately for me, I have come across a plan B, and I have 18 3x5 aluminum frame windows that I'm going to be turning into a new greenhouse, and it's going to be roughly this size, slightly bigger. I think the final dimensions are going to be 12 by 25, right in that area where this is a 10 by 20. It gives me plenty of room, but also lose room as far as the radius of the hoop. So it'll be boxed in with a gabled roof, and you'll have a lot more room to grow. So this is the process. But it's nice being able to grow food year-round and utilize this greenhouse, but it's also super risky if the greenhouse cannot handle and control the fluctuations in temperature and be reliable. I don't want to put a bunch of time and effort into growing something just for it to freeze and die overnight, or for it to get too hot during the day and all of my work is down the drain because this wasn't working the way that it should. Well, greenhouse, it was nice knowing you, but it's time to go. Another weekend, same project. Now, I am back, and thankfully I got everything prepped, ready to go for the new greenhouse to start installing. So all of this is actually old silt fence. You can see where the dirt line was that was trenching a couple years ago. I took the time to go ahead and remove the stakes, remove the staples, had it rolled up, ready to go. So 3 years in the waiting finally gets used, and it saves me money. So whenever you're able to salvage leftover materials, go ahead and do it, because that is how this greenhouse is getting built. But I got a trailer full of wood, and I got my saws set up. It's time to start the fun part. We'll get to framing walls. So there it is, as far as all of the rough framing, and that is about as much of the framing I'm gonna do right now, because I gotta kind of move this thing around and get it in place. But I didn't want to just pile on and do all the detailed framing until I was able to do that, because as you can see, I'm a little short-staffed. All right, the greenhouse is squared up, and yeah, I pulled a string line from corner to corner, but I was amazed because I did not have to make any adjustments. I mean, it was perfect just by eyeballing it. That has never happened. But I'm adding all of the extra framing, which is, this framing for the windowsill. And I just had to double check, because before I get too carried away, I want to make sure my windows fit. So there you go. There's a little mock-up. Now it's time to make the rest of this look like a greenhouse. And you know what? I was going to paint all of this in with a 4-inch roller before I ended up installing the windows, but all of this is pressure treated lumber, and it came right off the middle of the rack, and it is sopping wet, and I really do not want to wait a week. So I'm going to take the extra hour and brush it in around the windows, and yeah, I'm too anxious. I got to keep going.
There's dinner in the yard, out behind the cars. Tonight we're gonna do something different. I will make the things that I know how to make. You will make something more delicious. A sweet potato pie on a flimsy paper plate.
Well, that right there is what I'm going for, and it is getting dark, and there's some additional bracing I gotta do before I keep piling windows in here. It's getting a little heavy on the side. I just gotta brace it up. So I'm going to either wrap this up in the dark tonight where the camera can't see it, which means neither will you, or I'll do it tomorrow morning, but we'll see in the next clip. Well, I kept going. I have 4 more windows to go, but I'm wet, tired. I have not eaten anything all day. I'm going in the house and I'm going to bed. So, see you in the morning. Well, good morning. Yesterday afternoon, I was here till about 9 o'clock last night, and I got, most of these windows in, but the thing that stopped me from what I was doing was I didn't have enough daylight to investigate a couple things. Now, I knew the reason, I just couldn't see. So I added a lot of weight to this yesterday, and I got, a decent wobble in the center, which is expected. Now, all of this is stiffened up, north-south because of these windows and squaring up these openings. Same thing along here, but what I didn't want is for the wind to pick up, blow it over last night. So I added a couple bracing, I called it quits, I stopped adding weight to it. So today, the plan is to build some trusses, get a roof on this thing, and get it all tied together and locked in, as well as these galvanized sheets. Now, if you know anything about building, you know that the skin or the envelope of that building is really what stiffens up and locks in all of the structural integrity of the framing. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now, there's a couple things I could do right now, like doubling up my top plate, but I'm not gonna do that because it's gonna be integrated into my truss system the way that I have sealed off in between trusses. So I'm gonna skip that step, and I mean, it's just a greenhouse. I'm not putting a second story on this thing. I'm not living in it. I just need it to contain the sunlight and the heat and hold up during windstorms. So that's what I am building it to. But it's time to get to work, build some trusses, start throwing these suckers up. All right, so here's my truss. Very simple, 3 2x4s. Now, let me give you a little building tip. If you're gonna do anything repetitively, make sure you got a little system set up. So here I got center lines marked, and I got my angles marked. I lay my 2x4s on here, make my mark, center my truss mark, and I basically just set it up to get the most out of this 2x4 right here. I'm gonna screw it all together, cut off all of the ends and the excess, and that's a truss. Make sure you are saving your time just by doing a little bit of preliminary setup work. And just like that, we have trusses, but I need 5 more of those. Just like that, within 20 seconds, all of the trusses are built and installed. So easy. Y'all, I'm whooped for today, and just so happens that it is the opening day of dove season. So it's 3:30 in the afternoon. The dove are gonna start flying soon, so I'm going to call it quits. And yeah, I'm gonna go get some dinner. Once again, another day, same project, but today is gonna be a good day because I'm gonna finish up the framing. Now, the last of the framing that I have to do is going to be the roofing slats that I put in, and these are going to run perpendicular to my trusses, and it's going to lock everything in this way. Plus, it's also serving another purpose that's going to be my nailer boards for my roofing panels. But with that being said, I have a little building tip for you. So what I did was I went to Lowe's. You can go wherever you want, Home Depot, doesn't matter. Go get your lumber. I got treated 2x4s. And rather than spending, $5 a board on pre-cut 1x2s, which are typically going to be used on this, go ahead and get your 2x4s. And with the money that you save, you can buy yourself a table saw. So stop spending money on extra lumber. Use the money that you save on extra tools, and you will have those tools for forever. So rather than spending $5 a board, I spent $4.73 a board. I'm going to run through my table saw, and I'm going to get 3 times the amount of lumber that I would have. So you do the math, go and get you some tools with the extra money. So other than a couple rough openings for the ventilation, all of the framing is now complete. But I am on kid duty and I got one wandering off, and I think I'm done for this weekend. So I might tackle it next weekend. We'll wrap this thing up and I'll see you then. Well, it's another day of working on the greenhouse, and we are really going to encase this thing in today. So starting off, I already put some galvanized panels all the way down this side, but I still have to do the rest of them. Also, I got something to show you on the inside. So on the old greenhouse, what I did was I took a stand that I have right there that I repurposed for working on outboard motors, and I turned it into a stand for this fan. Well, the fan, I went ahead and roughed it in, and look, this is, I want to say it's a 30-inch just industrial outdoor porch fan. And here's the basic concept. I want to get hot air out of here, and that's why I have this fan exhausting out that way. So as you know, hot air rises, it's going to come up through the fan, it's going to vent out that way, and I'm going to draw cold air through the floor on some louvers in the front. Now, I still have to find some electric louvers, so when I hook it to the controller and that fan turns on, those louvers in the front open up, but I still haven't found exactly what I'm looking for yet, so I need to keep searching, and once I get that, I will know the rough opening so I can frame it in, tie it all in. But that is the basic exhaust system of this, and this is to draw all of the hot air out. And really, I'm only going to be using this during the winter time when these windows are closed. So that's going to be just enough, pulling a little cold air in, dropping the temperature real quick. But in the summertime, all these windows are going to be opened up, and it's really not going to make a difference because it's just going to be like outside air. I don't need a greenhouse in the summertime in Georgia, but I do need it hot, but not too hot in the wintertime. So that is the point of this ventilation system. Anyway, enough talking. Back to work. Well, the tin is up, the windows are in, and that is one more day knocked out, or one day closer to wrapping this thing up. But the next step is going to be a little bit of paint prep on the windows and pressure washing this whole thing. So get it ready to start shining up and looking like a finished product. So there's a saying, it is nothing in life is ever free, and it rings true here. So although these windows were free, they came out of a building that needed to be abated. Now, during that abatement process, my abatement company came through and put a spray adhesive along all the borders of the windows, stuck plastic to it to contain that area. Well, I have to get all of that off. So I have a bunch of this sticky residue all through here. I have old caulk, I have duct tape, and yeah, that's not going to work for a paint job. So I'm going to spend the next couple hours scraping windows, pressure washing windows, and getting ready to seal this thing up. Good morning. It's another day of working on the greenhouse, and after about 3 days of rain, 4 days of drying, I'm actually able to get out here and work on it again. So the mission for today is going to be caulk and paint. But while the sun rises and the dew lifts, I got a little cleanup to do, and I got one more thing to show you because something came in the mail. Another building tip: don't throw out your scrap wood. I got everything from wedges, paint stir sticks, I got slats for stacking lumber, I got a tree that has to come down and be milled behind the house. All that's being used for it. There's always a purpose. Don't chunk it in the trash, don't burn it. Oh, and if you're wondering, the old greenhouse got repurposed, and now I have a brand new pole barn for all my scrap lumber. So I'm gonna unload real quick and get back to work. All right, so what came in the mail? This right here, got a louver. So I got a 2-pack of these, I wanna say for 50 bucks on Amazon. So basically that's gonna be installed to the outside, and when that fan kicks on, it's gonna draw air, and these are able to open up, let air in. When they fall, it's just gravity. You got a foam seal on them, so it seals off. So it's basically just a fresh air intake for the greenhouse. And those are getting centered under each window. But louvers are in. It's time to shine this thing up. Now, I'm gonna start with caulking in all the windows. And there's a couple windows that were a little odd sized where I had a gap at the top. So what I did was I packed in some leftover backer rod and some pipe insulation, basically any sort of foam that you can pack in there. Don't use spray foam because it'll just get out of hand. But I wanna get this thing sealed up so that I have really tight control over the temperature and climate inside this greenhouse. So caulk, then paint. But first, I need another cup of coffee or something. Just not feeling it today. Well, that's probably just because caulk and paint is the least fun part of every project, but it needs to be done. Quit complaining, get to work. So I gotta do that about 1,000 more times. So the caulking took a little bit longer than I had anticipated. I probably put about 7 hours of caulking windows and all of the framing seams in, and it just was not a whole lot of fun, not very action-packed. But today comes the most dreaded part of this project, and that is going to be the paint job. I say that just because it's tedious, it's boring. I can do it quick, I can make it look good, but it's just not a whole lot of fun. So I got the earbuds in, I'm gonna turn on some music and get to painting and shine this thing up because it's gonna make a big difference. So I spent about 3, maybe 4 hours painting, and I'm roughly 75–80% done with the first coat. But to be honest with you, I got a little bored, and I still gotta finish it and put a second coat on it. But I'm gonna do something that sounds a little more fun, and that's go sit in a tree stand and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. So I will see you back when I get back to finishing up the paint and on to the next step. I'll see you then. What's going on? It is another day, same project, but different task. Now, on this project already, I've played the grader, the framer, the window guy, siding guy, weatherproofer, painter, and I'm kind of tired of doing all that stuff. So today, I get to be the plumber and the electrician. So I'm headed up to the end of the driveway right now to shut the water off, and we are going to tie this greenhouse into the grid and get it somewhat functional today. So let me show you what that looks like. So I did y'all a favor and spared you the boring part of watching me dig this trench for the last hour. But from point A, where you just saw me turn off the water, to point B, I do not have a cutoff. This is all just my irrigation lines for the gardens. So I have roughly a quarter mile of water line to bleed before I can tie this into that. So that's the plan. Might take a couple minutes, but we'll get there. So when I put all my water lines in for the irrigation, I ran 3/4 inch PEX and I tied it straight into my 1 inch water main without cutoffs. So I cut off at the road, everything shuts down. But the reason I didn't add cutoffs is because one, they were all underground, inaccessible. I didn't want to have boxes all over the place. And two, I also wanted to tie it just straight in so that I'm getting roughly 70 pounds of pressure on all those lines. And I'll tell you what, if you are going to put in irrigation or water lines for your animals, for your gardens, etc., keep that original road pressure. Your PEX will handle it just fine, but it makes filling up water troughs twice as fast, watering the garden twice as fast. Now when it goes into my house, it reduces to 40 pounds with a pressure reducer. But if something breaks in my house, it'll flood my house. If something breaks out here, it's just going to cause a wet spot on the ground. Other than that, it is super convenient to have high pressure lines everywhere. So just a tip. Just like that, we're tied in. I bury this back, keep on running. Water is back on, no leaks. We got water. So I could walk you through everything that I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and while I'm doing it, but that would make for a very long video. So I will show you what I did, explain it to you once I'm through. All right, so this is the rundown. It's pretty simple. So that main water comes in from the trench, goes to a shutoff valve. Also, I have a spigot right here. If I turn that on, I got water. And then going up into each and every one, I have 360 degree sprinkler head with a shutoff valve at each, so that if I only want plants on this side, I can just turn these cutoffs on and vice versa. If I only have plants in the corner, turn everything off, but that corner one, I have complete control over it. Now, I am going to add something in the future, so probably just a loop bypass right here to where I can put a timer on it, and that's going to be in the very near future. I have a timer, just a matter of getting the stuff for it, so I'm going to add that in. And then I'm also going to add a cutoff right here so that I can have more control just over this spigot. So I will also have a garden hose able to hook up in here and just isolate water stuff as needed as well. I'm super pleased with this, and yeah, this is way better than the misters that I had in the old greenhouse. They won't plug up, and just from walking across this thing, I got absolutely drenched, so my water times are going to go down drastically. But that's the plumbing. Now we got to get some electrical power in this thing. There you have it. I added just a male plug on the end. In about half an hour, we have power. Now, temporarily, I'm going to run an extension cord from the house over to here. That's why I ended up putting this plug on there. But in the future, I am going to trench from the house with a dedicated circuit, come up here, and then tie this together in a junction box. And that'll be, run back to a breaker on my main electrical panel. But I just don't really have the time to crawl under the house right now, trench a line in. That's going to be a project for the future if this starts giving me issues with tripping it off an extension cord. But that is the ultimate goal, is to have this whole thing on its own circuit. So even with getting the electrical and plumbing in today, I still have about an hour left before it's time to head to the woods and sit in a tree stand. So I'm actually going to start putting a roof on this thing. And I know my first complaint about the original greenhouse was that the roof was not durable and the sun would eat it up. And what you're looking at is 6mm plastic. And the reason I'm putting 6mm plastic on it right now is because I don't expect it to last more than 6 to 12 months. But the polycarbonate roofing that I want to put on this is probably going to be the most expensive part of this project. So it's going to be at least $500–600 for that roof. So I'm waiting on a Christmas bonus before I end up putting that roof on. So that's going to be a Christmas present for myself. Right now it is late September, so I got 3 months that this roof needs to last me, and that will at least get me growing stuff in here. So I'm going up with the temporary roof, and we'll make it work for now. There is one side done. And that's 2 sides done. So that'll get me through for now. I obviously got to close off the front same way and tidy it up a little bit. But I have an hour before I need to be in a tree stand, so I'm gonna get ready and head to the woods. But I see you tomorrow. Hopefully we can wrap this thing up. Now, over the last couple afternoons, I was able to get the front end sealed up, and look, this is nothing but just these button nails with some crystal clear Gorilla Tape, which is bad to the bone. I mean, this is awesome stuff. So if you're doing this, use that crystal clear Gorilla Tape. And then I also have white duct tape that I use to seal up all of the laps. But it is, roughly 15 degrees warmer inside of there than it is on the outside temperature. But in order to increase that, I'm going to have to put in a door. So there is no door right there. And now we have a door. So I got a few things knocked out since the last time that I checked in. So they're all pretty minor, just here and there, but let me show you what I ended up doing. Now on the front, I don't think that I had plastic on the front yet. I got it all sealed up and basically airtight. And also going around, you know, I did the same thing. I took that tape and I taped it down to the roof edge, and up underneath here I sealed off the top. And the way that I did that was I took outdoor carpet tape and I put it on top of that 2x4, and then I climbed up on a ladder and just stuck it down, so it is completely sealed all the way around the top. Another thing that I did was I added a hot tub in here. Now, being that I was already paying a power bill on the other side of the house to heat this thing, I might as well move it in here, kill two birds with one stone, and it is never going to frost in here. And it's just a nice warm space to hang out and you know, just relax. Another thing that I added was these benches along the side. I got them on both sides. So when I plant stuff in pots like this, I'm gonna have herbs growing in here year round. And also when I do microgreens and things like that, I don't have to bend over to work on stuff. And you know, it leaves this whole center area open. It's just nice to consolidate things to the edges and not have to walk out of here with a sore back every time I work with stuff. And lastly, I got this thermostat in action. Now here is the thermostat probe, and let me show you how this works. So obviously this hot tub is hot, it's 104 degrees. I can take the probe, stick it in the hot water, and there you go, fan kicks on. And once it cools below 90 degrees, the fan kicks off. So the temperature is completely regulated in here for now, and there's a couple things that I want to do, like I'm gonna add a louver on that fan to seal it up for when it gets colder, but I got a couple weeks to do that before the frost hits. But the bottom line is this project is basically a wrap. So I want to say thank you for watching and hanging out with me throughout the process. I had a lot of fun building this thing, and if you got recommendations for additions, go ahead and leave them in the comments, because I'm always open to new ideas and ways to improve some things. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching it. Thank you for subscribing, and that's pretty much all I got for you on this one. And I am ready to fill this thing and get some food growing in it. So I will see you on the next video.